Everybody, thanks for tuning in for another edition of Bulletproof Dental Practice Podcast. Tonight, I'm excited. I have a longtime friend, colleague, confidant, someone I've known pretty much my entire career, and I'm excited to have Gregg May on the podcast. Many of you may know about his Facebook group, the 10X. What is it? 10X Dental. 10X Dental. Yeah. I don't know why I just drew a blank, but that's a pretty cool forum, and I'm not a huge fan of Facebook forums because I feel like it's a lot of stuff I don't want to read, but yours is one I actually like chime in and comment on a fair amount. So anyway, Gregg, glad to have you on the show, buddy. Been friends a long time. Craig asked before we had hit record here, how do we know each other kind of thing. And I'll give a little history if you will, if you want me to.
I can add to it too.
Yeah. So back in the day, Craig, there was a group called Generation X. Do you remember that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. So Gregg and I were basically big advocates of that group, and went to all the meetings, and that's where a lot of our early career collaboration kind of existed. This is probably what, circa 2005?
Even before then, man.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So maybe right, 2002-ish, right? So it's been a long time. That then morphed into the Academy of Comprehensive Aesthetics, and then I think that ultimately then morphed into Smile Source.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, cool.
Which is weird. Well, I guess. So anyway, it was a very tight knit community of a lot of guys doing a lot of implant and cosmetic dentistry back in the day. Very helpful. It was smaller knit. It was definitely a tribe of stuff. So Gregg and I have kept in touch with each other. I think we lost contact for a while there, but you were going through some crisis, and that's what I was telling earlier. How
is that the story?
I love the underdog story, and we're about to hear it. We're about to hear it. So anyway, bud, it's glad to have you. Glad to spend some time with you. We're going to make this one a quicker podcast because I know you guys have some commitments. But let's jump into it, man. Did I miss anything in the intro?
No, man, you're right on. We had our tribe back then, and it was funny. I mean, this was even pre-Dental Town days, and I mean when we had email forums, Yahoo forums, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was so funny because it's like me and Peter were like leeches onto a lot of these more successful guys, and but everybody was so willing to share, and it wasn't like they wanted something in return.
That's right. It was literally an email list that went around, like a group thread, Craig. Like
wow.
Like today, you'd be like unsubscribe, like you just couldn't tolerate it. But back then, every time you got an email, it was like a gift, like because no one used email. It was like, oh, I got an email.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
You opened every one of them.
Yeah.
So where do you practice, Gregg?
I am a New Orleans bred guy. I moved away and then really missed my culture and my home. So moved back to the New Orleans area to start my career. Back in 2000, I opened my own standalone office in a really upcoming area of New Orleans, Mandeville, which is on the North Shore. That's kind of where my career started, and having some great mentors, Tom Hedge and Kathy, and even, hanging out with Pete and all these old guys, we all got a lot of good information. And, one of the things I knew that I wanted to get better at is, dental school gave you that ticket just to start off, and I mean, I just became a literal CE junkie, as much as I could go to different courses, business courses, this course, that course, I just knew I had to be there if I wanted to really, truly be successful. Mm-hmm. So I started, and that's kind of, my first few years, man, were a blast. I had the opportunity, when New Orleans became Hollywood South, to jump on a reality show.
Oh, cool.
Called Ambush Makeover. And, had my little taste of that, and then, that kind of got shut down because something really, really, really big happened in New Orleans in 2005.
Yeah.
Katrina hit.
Yeah, we remember.
And that's where, my whole life chaos, I guess, started. My Groundhog Day began with Katrina. My office literally was flooded with trees through it. I rebuilt it with my own money because flood insurance, paid for rising water, not raining in your office for a week, so had to rebuild it. But I really, at that time, wanted to rebuild a cosmetic boutique practice, I mean, after, Pac Live stuff and LVI stuff, I really wanted that and cosmetics were hot, Extreme Makeover was on. I mean, that's where it was at. So I rebuilt a nice little 3-op office. And, it took a year, most people didn't care about their teeth because they were worried about rebuilding their house. So slow getting back started. But it got back started, and, we had a really, really great 2006. And then in 2007, I was actually, living the good life, young dentist, making plenty of money, young kids, life, the works, building a 10,000 square foot house.
Wow.
And
that's even bigger than Peter's.
All right, now I'm not playing the 1-up game with my boy, but anyway.
Oh, I know. My whole house is his master closet. But that's
I understand.
I'm coming out swinging today, guys. Watch out.
Watch out now. Watch out.
Yeah. So anyway, 2007, I'm literally at my house while it's being framed, and a buddy of mine called me and said, "Dude, get in your car and go to your office now. That's all I'm going to say." And I'm like, "Cool, not a problem." And he goes, "No, seriously, haul ass." So by the time I pulled into my parking lot, there were 2 fire trucks in the front, and my front window blew out with fire.
No freaking way.
So we're just getting started, dude.
Oh, geez. Does this story have a happy ending? I can't handle any more.
Yes, it does. It does have a happy ending. I can tell.
Okay, good.
So anyway, that office burned down, and I lost everything, and decided to move locations. And I will tell you, I'm going to tell you, you're going to hear a lot of bad shit, dude. I mean, the story's just getting started. But each and every one of these things, you learn a lot real fast about, man, oops, I didn't do that, or I didn't do that. Like Katrina taught me all about backing your crap up, and having off-site backups and things of that nature. It taught me a lot about, insurance and things like that. My office burning down taught me a lot about, hey, fire insurance, you better get your own independent adjuster immediately. If you rely on their adjuster, you're screwed, and I got screwed. So anyway, I decided that, man, I got hit twice by natural disasters. I'm just going to build a Taj Mahal practice, a la Peterish, and just build this beautiful office, man, zebra wood floors, even have room for a training facility inside to invite, national known speakers in. And so, man, construction was underway. And I got that office built, and I got the house built. I moved into both of these places, and here we go again. Life is
what year? Sorry, Greg. I want to know what year.
That was in 2007. So all of 2007 through half of 2008, I was under construction doing this thing. I got into the new office in August of 2008.
How much had you borrowed at that point? I want to get some context of the story.
Probably at that point about $900,000.
Okay, yep.
For the office. Okay. So anyway, got into the office and, got things rolling. Patients were coming back, starting to do some cool dentistry and stuff like that. Had a great, end of 2008 until I was on a bicycle. I'm an Ironman triathlete, and was doing training rods for New Orleans Ironman coming up. That was in April. And in November of 2008, a car hit me going 50 miles an hour.
Wow.
And I tore my C4 in my neck. And of course, immediately, you're invincible, right? So let's go back to work with a torn neck. Real smart, right? It works really well when you're popping pain pills all day. Mm-hmm. No, right?
How old are your kids at this point, Greg?
Kids at this point are 7 and 5.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, obviously, that hit me right then. And, honestly got addicted to pain pills pretty quick because I couldn't practice without them.
Right. Without the pain. Yeah.
It wasn't that I was, doing anything crazy. I'm not it wasn't doing cocaine lines, on strip.
But you had to keep the doors open, right? Like, so it was more of a survival technique. Like
it really was. Yeah. But, was it wrong? Should I be on, taking pain pills? Anyway, so I got to the point where, look, it's time to get off this mess. It's really time to heal my neck. And I did, I got off of them. And basically at that point, life was still a whirlwind, because about the point where, I'd hired an associate to come into the office and take over the things I couldn't do and things like that, was when my wife at the time, who, by the way, was a divorce attorney, walked in and said, I found someone else more than you that I love.
Wow.
I'm divorcing you.
Wow.
And she's
So what year is that now? I'm sorry.
That was in 2009.
So it's like every 2 years from 2003 with Katrina all the way through, you just get your ass kicked.
Well, 5, 7, and 9 for sure. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
anyway,
Katrina was what, 5?
Yep.
Do what now?
Katrina was
05.
Yeah. Katrina was 05. So anyway,
so
2009.
you had two females take everything you own. You got Katrina.
Yeah.
And your ex-wife.
And my ex-wife, you got it. And when I say take everything, I mean pretty much everything. Also, with my neck, I pretty much had to stop practicing dentistry to heal myself. But, at the time, it's like Louisiana's community property, dude. And she owned half, including half the office debt. Well, basically, she forced me to get rid of her debt into a full bankruptcy. So I had to do a full bankruptcy, basically at 40 years old, and liquidate everything that I could. And basically, man, here, I've lived this pretty decent life as a dentist, and all of a sudden, dude, I'm back at zero after practicing this many years, really? So it's like, whoa. So I basically got my neck healed. And here's where the story turns, neck healed, start over again. And started working as an associate really quick. Then a buddy of mine called me that had been in lectures that I had done on marketing and asked me to be a clinical director for his practices. He owned 15 offices at the time and, had 22 associates. And I'm like, sure. And I did not understand the millennial mentality of dentistry at the time when I was a boss. And, basically, wow, have y'all not learned communication skills and things like that? So anyway, I started working with him, and it was going really, really well until, he decided that Heartland was a good option for him and sold out to Heartland. But before he did it, sat with me and said, dude, Heartland's probably not going to keep you on as a clinical director. And he's like, plus, you know what you're doing. Go buy some offices. Excuse me. So anyway, I did my demographics, used everything I've learned through what I've been through. I found an office here on the North Shore of New Orleans in the Ponchatoula area that is completely underserved. The demographics of where my old practice was, there was one dentist for every 780 people.
A little saturated.
I moved to a town here where there's one dentist for every 8,000 people. And I'm directly across the street from a Walmart. Now, I will tell you, the unfortunate part of that is, the income level of this area is about combined income of $42,000 a year, where my old office was more like $120 a year.
Right.
In that area. But since I bought it 2.5 years ago, the dentist retiring had Parkinson's, and it was time for him to get out. He was only doing roughly $180,000 to $200,000 a year in the location. I basically came in and gutted the place, and after the second year, we closed our second year out with 4 ops doing $2 million a year.
Wow.
That is awesome, dude.
When was that? I'm sorry, Greg.
That was end of 2017. We hit 2 million.
Got it.
So you bought it, give it, yeah. What you bought it, and then when was the 2 million?
Well, when did you buy it? What year did you buy it?
I bought this in the summer of 15.
Wow.
So 2 years. So 2 years you 10x'd it, and that's
10x.
Did that happen? And that's the genesis of 10x?
That is not the genesis of 10X, man. Just a little bit of background, and you may know this, Pete. I was lucky enough way back when to have Omer Reed for one of my mentors.
Wow.
And Omer, I remember, vividly sitting with Omer in New Orleans. And one of the questions that I asked Omer a long time ago was, man, you've seen dentistry change and go through, generational changes. What's one thing, if you could change in dentistry, would really make a huge difference, for all these solo practicing dentists? It would just totally basically 10x their practices if they would learn this skill set. And he looked up at me because that wasn't a tough question. I'm like, really? He goes, absolutely. Dental school does not teach behavioral sciences. We don't. We don't teach communication skills, at all. We don't teach any of this stuff. So literally back then, I didn't really listen to his words until really I broke my neck. And then I dove into, I had a year and a half basically to take off and read every book I could get my hands on communication skills and neurolinguistic programming. And
hey, I'm really sorry. Who is Omer Reed? I'm sorry to even ask that.
Whoa.
I know. I debated asking, so there has to be a listener or two.
Dude.
I'm sorry. You're welcome to the person that's listening to this podcast that didn't know.
That's somewhat dental sacrilegious.
Okay, I've never heard of him.
I mean, he's literally like up there with like, in my mind, like a Gordon Christensen.
So how do you spell his name?
Omer Reed. You're looking it up now, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sorry, man.
No, it's all good.
He's like he's like a futurist, right? I always thought like, I don't know, man.
Oh, he was absolutely a futurist, man. He always did things,
All that's popping up is Omer Reed's 90-second crown prep.
Yeah. He taught that a long time ago, dude.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing? I don't know.
Well, they all needed endo after that, but it's
but you got it done. Yeah.
90 seconds.
Got it done. But anyway, I threw myself into all that, and then I picked up a book that said 10x Dental, and started reading, and I read the background of this guy Grant Cardone, and I'm like, hey, this guy.
I know who that is. That is.
Good job. And I'm like, hey, this is a Louisiana boy, who's had some challenges too. And man, has like really, focused on recreating himself, and has, literally become a sales superstar. Mm-hmm. And especially especially the auto industry, but now, gosh, even the real estate industry.
Yeah.
Just, utilize, and he's older than I am, and using the power of social media has just blown up.
He's crushing it.
And really is killing it. And I'm like, man, this is a philosophical change I need in my life, because I had to restart over, and it sucks. It sucks losing everything. It sucks having to go through what I went through. Yes, I learned some very valuable lessons along the way and had numerous failures, per se. But man, I need to get back quick, because honestly, I don't have many clinical years left because of my injury. I can't do more than, say, 30 clinical hours a week right now, or I'm on the sofa with Netflix all weekend, dude.
Yeah. That makes sense. I get that. I can relate to that.
So, dentistry takes a toll on your body. It's, 18 years later, man, I have the same aches and pains, that a lot of guys, but mine has to do with, I lose mobility in my neck after that many hours. So I knew I had to transition into mentoring guys and coaching young dentists and things like that. But I knew I had to grow the business side as well. So I've been ultra focused on the business side of things, and have really, really, man, just utilized everything I've learned and just put it all into place to blow up. I just bought my second location in January. Now I have 2 offices, and challenges of 2 offices, and Pete and I have kind of talked about that a little bit and some of the challenges going with that. But, I started the 10X group because one of the things that I see so many of these millennial dentists doing with these Facebook groups, number one, they try to reinvent the wheel. Number 2, a lot of them are sitting there trying to use technology in spite of having a proper skill set, like communication skills and things of that nature, and they're, we're taught to be engineers instead of, presenting cases based on emotion. And, all this stuff, if I could just teach that, but get some of these older guys that I've been friends with forever, like Pete, to chime in and keep all the advertising out of this group, and just basically give back to dentistry. And hopefully that no dentist, will have to go through what I went through ever. But if they do, have an open mind and open heart and say, man, I'm here for you. I've been through those emotions. I've been through that crap. I've been through the divorce. I've been through the drugs. I've been through the bankruptcy. If you're going through something, I'm here for you.
That's beautiful, man. That's beautiful what you just said. I want to let that sink in for a minute, because I think, Pete knows, because I talk to him on a daily. Pete knows that I'm going through a lot here right now too, like perfect storm. I got two rock star dentists that I love and are amazing. One met her future husband who lives in Chicago, and she sat down with me, yesterday, basically crying, saying like, listen, I love you. I love everything about here, but I don't want to be alone. I want to have a husband. I don't know what to do. And I'm like, you got to go with your heart.
Right.
And so that's going to leave a huge void. And I got another one. So I'm actively in the recruiting stage. And I think it's important that, that we're talking about this. And I want to take a moment just to kind of dive into it, because we can't resent the forces that God puts in our path that are going to shape us, but because they're going to be there, and there's a plan for all of us. And I firmly believe, even though you went through, sucked, it was really shitty, and I'm sorry you went through that, it made you who you are.
Absolutely.
And there are statistics that show that when people go through really bad shit, cancer, prisoners of war in general, there is, for most people that get through that make it through that, a happier life on the other side, because we all crave context. And when you suffer and you have some real bad shit happen, then you know what a good day is like. One of my close friends, John, who I mention all the time to you, Pete, the guy that has the master's place, he got a diagnosis of cancer, and they misjudged his stage of cancer, and they told him to get his affairs in order. For a couple of weeks, he thought, oh shit, I'm a dead man. Mm-hmm. And they said, oh, well, actually, no, you're going to be fine. So after that, what he chooses to suffer over, what he chooses to let, his mind take over and bring him to a dark place is very difficult. He doesn't suffer anymore, because, we all suffer, we're human beings, but to stay suffering is the big distinction. So a guy like you, Greg, you have a bad day and you'll suffer for 90 seconds, 120 seconds. Like, this is not a bad day.
No.
Bad day is when I pulled it to my office and the whole fucking place was burnt out and the windows were burnt, or the bad day is when my wife served me with papers. This is not a bad day because this patient is upset. I know I'm going to make it right. So I think for the young bucks that are listening, the young women and men that are listening to our podcast, don't resent the process. It sucks. I'm not looking forward to finding two associate dentists right now. I'm not looking forward to it. I'm not excited about it, but real happiness is in the solving of problems.
Right. And I'm going to throw this in there too. One of the biggest lessons I learned with going through this, man, it's really easy when you're going through shit to isolate and not have, the right people to talk to. And of course, I really hate to say this, but the best people to talk to is another dentist.
I know.
Somebody that's in there that is going through the same emotions and same issues as you've been through, that you can connect with. And I kind of isolated for quite a while. And then I learned that was not the best situation. So,
you don't want to bitch to people. You know what I mean? Like, I feel bad, like, even just with Pete. I mean, just to be transparent here, the last couple of conversations are like, bro, I'm really upset, blah, blah, blah. And I'm dumping. And then when he dumps on me, he's like, oh man, I'm really sorry. I feel like I'm dumping. I'm like, bro, you're not dumping. That's what friends are for. That's friends.
Exactly. And that's what true friends are really for. And, to me, everybody's got bad shit, but I mean, if you're willing to build each other up and be there for somebody, we grow as professionals. And it's not a negative. We think that we're, these great, well-trained dentists and we handle all these emotions great. But I mean, honestly, dude, we all suck at it. We just do a little better and a little better over time. But, hey, it happens.
But listen, that's what provides the richness of life. And I know there's people that are listening to this that are getting their butts kicked. And, we all have a different level of it. I'm reading a great book right now. Greg, I don't know if you've read it yet, but Pete and I are going through it together. It's called The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle.
Already, yeah. Read that years ago, man. Sure have.
Yeah, so that book just like points out like the mind is, and Tony talks about this a lot. I'm a big Tony Robbins disciple, and I'm lucky enough to have a relationship with him. But he talks about the mind, not your thoughts, the mind. because the mind wants to go. The mind is a tool, but left unchecked, it will consume you and take over. And there were so many points in your life because of what you've been through. I mean, you had to really redefine who you are. You were an addict. I mean, talk about a label. I mean, with all due respect, that's a harsh label. I mean, at a certain moment, you had to like come face to face with that you had to paint. That's a pretty encompassing label. You had to say, no, I'm actually not that. I am this, and reinvent yourself. And
Exactly.
you're bankrupt. So I am bankrupt. I mean, that sounds like another label. And like, no, I'm actually not bankrupt. I'm going through a bankruptcy. And I think that is important because all these people that are listening that have these minor challenges. And, we live in a time where Instagram and Facebook, and we all put our best faces forward, and people look at Peter's shiny offices and my shiny offices and say, wow, I want to be those guys.
Right.
I don't know if you really do.
Right. And I get that too. It's like, I'm on my 10X group, and it's like I have so many, messages constantly, man. Holy cow, how did you grow an office that fast? And I'm like, because I searched out, I did my research, I've learned from all these mistakes. You can't just throw, a guy a year out of school and expect him to get the same results. He hasn't been through what I've been through.
Right. And no one would listen to you if you didn't have a story like this.
Right.
My grandfather and my father were dentists, and I took over a $3 million practice, and I brought it to $5 million. Yeah, great. I mean, how about this is all, I'm not to get all woo-woo, but this is part of what God gave you. God made the story as part of the whole thing. So
right.
Your narrative about it is also the same thing. It's like, that you didn't have the chops to start your practice over. Well, great. How about Katrina? Katrina will help you with that. Or you didn't have
that didn't work. Let me burn it to the ground.
Yeah, exactly. It's those times that show your quality and your character. You would have not had your character shown to you.
Yeah, lesser men, I think, would have packed it up, Greg. But you kept stepping up to the plate, and I think that's.
I had those questioning times where, God, are you telling me I shouldn't be a dentist, man?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And I just hang it up, and I'm like, but you know what? I love it. Peter knows I am so passionate about dentistry, man.
Yep.
I love people. I love the craft. I
Me
love
too.
what I get to do every day.
Me too.
It's an amazing profession. It's so many opportunities to really truly help and be a part of healthcare in your community. And probably one of the biggest things I'm trying to spread the word on now. And I just wrote a big blog article on it here recently. Is and that's why the 10X Dental Group exists. I wanted to get all these guys, older guys, that were hardcore leaders and thought leaders in dentistry that have been around forever, that don't have time to be perusing Facebook because their offices are so busy.
Right.
All these guys are at the pinnacle of their careers, and get some of these younger guys on board because sometimes old school works. I went through a bankruptcy. When I bought this practice, man, I didn't have, a monthly budget to be spending on SEO and marketing and brilliant websites. Man, I did hardcore old school ground marketing and became part of the community, which is, man, there was a time, I think we're all old enough. When I first got in, man, it was looked down on guys.
But marketing as a whole was looked down at?
Yeah, I moved to town, and it's like, you're going to do print marketing? No, what?
Yeah.
That you were like X'd out of the good old boys club if you were to do something like that, Well, how did all these old guys get their patients and all these loyal patients, man? There's some stuff we can learn from them and stuff that they've done. We don't, we get to utilize technology, and, we're in that middle age group where, we see what the millennials are doing, but we also see what all these older guys before us have done and did well. And it's like, let's not get away of some of this older school stuff that really still works, and just spend it because we're going to rely on technology, because we don't want to develop a communication skill set.
I love that you dove deep into that for a second prior to talking about neurolinguistics and, just being good at communication and public speaking. I actually have a doc right now who's going through a public speaking course because I told him he probably needed to do it. And I commend him. He's open about it and talks about it. But I said, you will literally double your production if you do this. I promise you, because your case enrollment will skyrocket because he's a fantastic dentist. He just kind of stumbles sometimes over like being super technical and delivering his message, right? I'm like, begin with like how this benefits the patient as opposed to like, oh, look how smart I am. I can talk to you technically.
Yeah.
And so I can't wait to watch his evolution go from like, you know, great dentist who kind of enrolls okay to like great dentist who like people can't say no.
Right.
I think that bears a little bit of in depth. I want to just you mind if I break off on that just for 1 minute?
Sure.
Yeah, dude.
So when dentists, this is a really important thing. So if you've been out just for a year, 2 or 3, when we tend to get challenged or we feel uncomfortable, we resort back to our technical knowledge. And like I'll listen to a lot of my younger dentists, and they're like, you know, we're gonna do this, and the osseous, and the bone, and the gingiva, and cutting, and drilling. I never say those words.
We may even get to a gross debridement later, Mrs. Jones.
I tell my
gross
dentist,
debridement.
I have people that are fighting like, I wanted my cleaning, and we're like, no, we can only do a debridement. I'm like, no. So debridement is cleaning off. We're going to clean your teeth, but we're going to clean everything off that you see. There's still stuff below your gums that we have to get to later, but we only have 45 minutes. Let's get down to cleaning the part that you care about. But bone and just remember, you've got to talk in plain English. Forget it all. I mean, dental school taught you. If you would have said in dental school, hey, I want to drill, I want to prepare the site and place or place a tooth. They would say, what are you talking about, prepare the site? You mean do an osteotomy and blah, blah, blah. So we have to make a big pivot out of school, out of the boards, out of residency, and start talking patient-friendly language.
It's so funny, and you know, I mean, I've come full circle, and obviously, you know, a clinical director, being over 22 associates when I was, you know, it was amazing because that's after I had dove in to learning all the communication stuff, and it's like, dude, you know, Chris Phelps and Bowen and, you know, Ramsey, man, it's like we're all teaching, you know, trying to say the same thing and trying to spread the same message. You know, man, watch about the words that you say, use emotionally charged words, get some words out of your vocabulary immediately. Sure. I mean, gosh, if I hear one of my team members say cost, I go through the roof. It's not a cost, it's an investment. You know, I mean, just little things like that, little small changes, you know, can make such a world of difference in your practices and in your profitability, you know?
Yeah.
I look at my close rate constantly and, you know, I want to know how I'm doing.
So what is other than connecting professionals, like what is the purpose of your Facebook group? I love it, but is it all altruism? Like, are you really just wanting to kind of connect and give back?
It is altruistic, man. You know,
cool.
I mean, basically at this point, you know, I mean, it was my way of reconnecting with a lot of the older guys that I've lost touch with, because like I said, you know, I mean, some of my older mentors, you know, man, their kids are in college and they come home for the weekend, and I mean, their time is so limited, and, you know, my time is limited too. And then you've got a lot of younger guys that, man, they're on all the time and they're looking for good advice. And it's like there's some of the stuff they share isn't such great advice.
Right.
You know, I mean, the whole point of the group was to share some leadership skills, you know, that need to get developed if you want to be successful, and things that you can do that give you that 10x return, man. You know, I mean, cut through the crap. I mean, it's like, why are you doing this? You know, I see these guys and they're so focused on this or they're so focused on that. And I mean, the ROI, even the time ROI, is ridiculously stupid. And I'm like, why are they making the same mistakes that all of us have already made?
Right.
You know? I mean, if I could help one or two of them, man, I'll feel good. You know, I mean, after going through my failures, you know, I tell my own children this: I want you to make your own failures, not have the ones I've already done.
Yeah.
You know, my job as a parent is for you not to make the same mistakes I did. It's for you to make your own. Not that you won't make your own and you won't have your own setbacks and things that happen, but at least learn from me, you know? And that's the whole point of 10X.
I mean, it's like a humble leadership, you know? I mean, you're
servant leadership.
Yeah, it really is. I think that's a great message. And I think that really resonates. Hopefully it's really resonating with your children, or at least it will down the way. They might be still too young to
Dude, they're teenagers. I got one about to be a senior in high school, man. But anyway, that was the whole point of putting 10X Dental together is finding those young superstars, that were really passionate about dentistry and getting them into the group. I don't want a big group. I don't want a whole bunch of advertisers in there advertising about this or that or the other, and also, because of my story, I've been speaking just a few times here lately because, I want to spread the message that, man, look at your life. I know you're going through some crap, but there's people that have been through more. And I mean, if you're having trouble, reach out, connect, don't isolate,
And I think, like Gregg was saying, as dentists, or at least this used to be the case, maybe newer dentists are better at this, kind of collaborating, but dentistry used to be this very isolationist kind of profession, right? It was the cottage industry. You're kind of practicing by yourself, and that became almost a mantra in your life. Like you kind of just like I've learned to really kind of like wall off things and not communicate very well, because that's the silo in which that was my world, right? But now it's like group practices and there's a lot more collaboration online, and maybe that's not a big issue, but I think a dentist's default is to kind of like, you kind of guys, what I'm saying, I mean, y'all are both you kind of graduated both around the same time I did. Are you seeing that? Did that resonate with either one of you?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. And I understand exactly what you're trying to get across. I mean, back then, we, to learn what another guy was doing marketing his practice in Dallas, Texas, or Chicago, Illinois, or, what's working in your market, we just latched on to that email because you were in your own little world.
Right.
You wall people off. And, in your own community, you're really wanting to crush the competition. You want to dominate your market, right? So it's not like you're going to your local guys going,
right, your study club, right? You don't want to share your trade secrets because you're like, wait a second, this could cannibalize my own market share.
Exactly. Right. So, we latched onto that, and, with technology, it's made it easier to do today. But at the same time, I think it's gotten so easy that, you've got some guy on there that is sharing like, okay, this is what I do. But in all honesty, and I've heard you guys say this before, really they hadn't been through enough. They don't have the street cred.
Yeah.
You with me?
But that's the big thing that's happening now. That's why, the whole, the word disintermediation, the middleman used to be we just went, Peter and I have been to several conferences lately that are they're just kind of a fraction of what they used to be. People are not, why would you go over to a big conference, pay a lot of money as really a long form sales call to sign up for their stuff?
Right.
So I've been at conferences where it's just like, there's like 7 or 8 presenters and everybody just gives you an hour and like, hey, you want to learn how to do this? Sign up for my seminar.
Right. It's a funnel, It's
a funnel. It is. And there's forums like this or like Dental Hacks or whatever that are actually providing real value. Or T-Bone just providing massive value.
Absolutely.
So why fly halfway around the country?
Well, I think there's been a shift, right? I think going back to what you and I were saying, Gregg, about not wanting to share from a scarcity standpoint, I think there's been a shift into more of abundant thinking.
Absolutely.
I don't know why I feel that, but I feel like the pendulum has switched more to abundantly. I feel like there's more transparency, more sharing, more openness. I feel like that's the tone of the day, which feels a lot better, right? Because I think dentistry needed that more so than anything else, because like I said, we siloed ourselves a lot more. So I think to get more abundant and collaborative and actually strengthening our industry through maybe even group practices and practicing together more.
Yeah,
absolutely. Well, the
great shift.
Right. And the one thing I'll see that's lacking though, and like I said, of course, my whole 10X site and what T-Bone's doing and guys just sharing their knowledge and, easily without looking for anything back is wonderful. But one thing that is lacking to me, which I think is the next shift, is accountability. It's one thing to know, but it's different, in such a thing like a mastermind group or having a guy, hold you to the fire and go, okay, I know you know this.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
I know you know this. I know you've learned it online.
Right.
Why aren't you doing it every day? What's holding you back, and having somebody, an accountability partner. And which to me isn't your wife, you know, in the least little bit. I mean, it's an accountability partner.
Nor would you want it to be, right? Because I don't think
No,
that's
absolutely.
I think that would compromise the relationship. Like I think
Right.
I 100% agree with you. Like it's cool to put down your goals and missions and reverse engineer all that stuff. But if someone's not holding you to task, it really just, you can make an excuse in your own head about why it didn't get accomplished. Versus if I say, hey, Craig, I didn't get this accomplished, you'd be like, I don't give a shit. Get it done, dude. You know?
Right. Exactly.
And I think I totally agree with you, but the accountability aspect is missing. And I think we all tiptoe around that.
And I think that's where the next shift is going, you know, having mastermind groups, you know, that you can be involved in, where it's like, you know, you leave your ego at the door and you're there to help each other, but, you know, you schedule it and you do it. And, you know, I got involved with Bill Williams' mastermind group. And I mean, dude, that totally changed my career.
Totally. Masterminds are awesome.
All of a sudden, you know, I was accountable. And I mean, I would rather spend money, you know, going to a mastermind group than, you know, another day learning how to prep another crown margin, you know?
Well, that's the whole thing too, is like what we're doing is the real learning that happens in any one of these seminars. Like Pete and I went to a couple recently, and there was not really a lot from the stage per se, but there was a lot in the cocktail hour and between the lectures.
That's always the way it's been.
Yeah. Always the way it is. So why?
That's how all our old generation stuff.
Which you're right. I see where you're going, Craig, is the pool at the conference. The pool at the conference has always been the mastermind, and that's where you gain the most value. We just never identified it as the mastermind, right?
But, but when you have
tide lifts all the boats, and the mastermind is what's happening.
Right. Well, listen, when you get a group of 20 people together, I mean, I was a member of a big consulting company, and maybe 10 years ago, they're like, oh, you got to come to our platinum thing. It's all the elite doctors. I was so excited about it. And so we had people selling like Veloscope for 2 hours on the stage. I paid a shit ton of money. There was a lot of successful guys in that group. And finally, I was like, at the end, I'm like, hey, when do we have like an hour? And I just wanted to
when do we get to execute?
Well, also, it's just like, hey, guys, here's what I'm doing. Anybody have anybody ideas? Yeah, I'm doing this. Oh, shit, that's awesome. Anybody? Yeah, I'm doing that too. Like, I remember like speaking at a summit recently and going to dinner and people picking my brain. I'm like, well, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I checked them out on, you know, Google. How long you been open? You have 150 reviews? Shit. How'd you get that? Podium? Oh, shit, I'm doing that too.
Right.
So, like, you know, it's super important that we have these open forums. And I mean, that's why if we could do something like this, Peter, where this would be Facebook Live, imagine how much more dynamic. I know we're getting to strategy here, but if we could have this Zoom being a Facebook Live on our Facebook page and just leave it open forum, like what's going on?
Yeah, we've talked about that. I agree. Meaning it. Yeah.
Because there's tons of people that have questions for you right now, Greg. We could be helping them.
We'll launch it on the 10X dental site.
Please. No, hey, if you look, I'll put it on there all you want. But you know, I'm already doing that on 10X Dental. You know, Dee Dee and I are co-hosting a Facebook Live once a week. You know, and we're getting, you know, different topics and things like that. And again, you know, that's good. And, you know, you get a whole crap ton of views, and, you know, you really feel like you're helping people, and people are coming along and they're getting the knowledge, but they're able to post questions later that we can get back to or whatever.
Yeah. I know you can do it on Zoom. Like I saw a live video last night. Someone was Zoom. It said Zoom in the corner. So it was 2 or 3 people, and it was live on Facebook, but via Zoom.
Right.
I mean, it was just, that's the way, I mean, listen, we're all aligned to what we want to do. We all want to help the profession, and we're all doing this for free. So you really want to help people? We'll go live with it. I mean, that'd be awesome.
Definitely. I think you need to. But like I said, to me, the next stage of that, you know, so many people have these questions and comments and stuff like that, and we're spreading the knowledge. But the next step to me is forming the accountability of it all.
Yeah.
You know, like, dude, you know this. We've talked about this. You know, why aren't you getting success like I'm getting? You know, I'm looking at Peter going, you know, man, you know, what are you doing different than me? Why am I not getting this success? And it's like, well, dude, you know what to do. You're just not doing it.
Yeah. It's
super important, guys, what we're talking about now. Because without that accountability partner, you're not going to move the needle.
No.
You know,
right, because you can make, like I said, like I've done this all throughout my career. Like I can make excuses in my head to justify my lackluster performance.
Very true.
Yeah, so, you either suffer the pain, the discipline, the pain of discipline, or the pain of regret. I mean, it's the same thing. We all know how we got into 2 things. Either you're disciplined or you're cranking on a daily. There's no catastrophic failure. I mean, even I mean, maybe Katrina is a catastrophic failure, but most Katrinas that hit people are you didn't do what you're supposed to do on a daily, and now all of a sudden there's enough pain in your life that you're miserable, and now you're inspired to act. I mean, Pete and I had a conversation about that this morning. It's like you take your foot off the gas and things start coasting down, and then all of a sudden it's crisis mode, and then you get your ass in gear, you get things cooking again, and then you take your foot off the gas. It's this terrible cycle.
Yeah, Greg, we have a business coach. I'll tell him what we are on the phone this morning with a business coach that we kind of share independently and then share together. But it's he's actually speaking at our summit. But essentially, he's not saying anything revolutionary to us that like, here's the magic sauce that you need to do with your life. It's truly going back to what you were saying about accountability and declaring it, and then having and being accountable to him and Greg. So totally agree with you, buddy. I totally agree. It is cool stuff. And I like the evolution of how this podcast came in. We talked about a lot of stuff.
Yeah, we have. And I mean, we needed to catch up on all that stuff because you've kept asking me, man, man, we're both so busy. It's hard to catch up and know where you're at now. And it's like, dude, I mean, you've heard bits and pieces, but I mean, you just heard, and obviously you've heard the Cliff Notes, version of what happened to me, but, and it sucked. But I can tell you what, if it wouldn't have all happened, I wouldn't be where I am today, and I wouldn't have the feelings that I've had today.
Yeah, the gratitude. I'm sure your gratitude shifted quite immensely, from today versus if it hadn't all happened.
Absolutely. And, they say, the biggest change, it happens to you when you go through a significant emotional event, period. Well, I had to go through a bunch of them. So, boy, has my personality changed just a little bit, probably, I've learned to listen a whole lot better.
Yeah.
It's good for you. It's good for you in the end. I mean, I know it. I don't wish it on anybody, but while you're going through it, it sucks. But it is good for you to go through all that stuff.
Yeah, but finding the silver lining, like you're saying, I mean, you found the silver lining, and I think that's the difference of winners and losers. You're focusing on the good that happened because of the bad versus just the bad that happened because of the bad.
Well, the other thing is too that bears some mention is that what is your excuse when everything's going right and you're still unhappy? Like you got a guy like Robin Williams, wins the Academy Award for Best Motion Picture, comedic actor, dramatic actor, and he still feels valueless. Look at all the people in Hollywood. Why does Hollywood have so many unhappy people? Why are there so many drug addicted dentists? And
that's a whole other podcast, buddy.
Look at some of our kids have 50 toys. And they don't like any of them, and you see some kid in like the Amazon playing with a stick and a rock, and he's super happy. There's something about human beings where sometimes more can make you really unhappy.
Absolutely.
We've all kind of bought into this common belief that more, bigger, better, and it's all going to be great. So,
it's sometimes it's not the what's next, it's the what's now, which is the book you're reading, The Power of Now, and living in the moment and being present and being focused on what you're doing instead of, constantly. And, all of us, that work so hard to get into dental school, a lot of us are brainiacs, man. We've got, a million thoughts going through our head at the same time. And it's like, you're least effective when you're multitasking, you've got to be present in the moment. And if you're not, it just doesn't work out well in the end. People notice that you're not paying attention to them and you're not giving them the attention that they deserve. So
I love the fact that, remember when multitasking used to be like the word of the day, and it was like, oh, I can multitask and do everything. And I would always think to myself, like, I'm horrible at multitasking. I can do one task at one time. People are like, I can do 12 things at once. And now, like, that's actually been like, the research has proven like multitasking is just like an excuse to kind of look busy, and like you're not functional.
You got to understand, like, look at what is possible now. Like if you wanted to deposit a check, you got your ass in the car, drove to the bank, you didn't have a cell phone. So multitasking was like, I'll listen to a CD and drive my car. Now multitasking is like, I'm at a fucking stoplight. Let me deposit this check.
Yeah.
Let me take a conference call. Let me be on a Zoom call. Oh, and let me check the radar because it looks like it's going to storm. So it's a whole different level of multitasking. It's just, there's so much coming at us now. It's crazy.
Yeah. There is, and learning how to utilize all of it properly and at the right time, man, is always a chore. And that's why, running a business today, running a dental practice today, especially a successful practice like we all three have, where, hey, you got a lot coming at you. There's more to be done to run a dental practice than ever before. You've got all different kinds of hats to wear constantly, and including keeping a positive culture in your practice. You're not allowed to have a bad day, or have bad stuff happen to you. And, I want to walk in every day and be happy-go-lucky just like the next guy. But, sometimes, man, I stub my toe,
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the bigger you get and the more successful you get, the expectations of who you are as a person are so much higher.
Oh, absolutely.
So much higher. If you lead a team of 4 versus a team of 40, the expectations of you is just you're seen as more superhuman. And we're not superhuman. We're real people fighting real battles, and we have bad days, but the expectations of you rise. It's an interesting phenomenon.
Absolutely. It's a good one though, and it's just the part of success, and whatever your definition of success is. But, you're right. The more successful you become, the more lives you touch, and the more people look into you, to help them and things like that. And, but it's an honorable quest, in my opinion.
Yeah, it is. It's the hard path, but in the end, it's what creates the fulfillment, and you're not meant to have it easy. You're meant to get all you can handle.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, guys, I know you both had a hard stop kind of at a certain point, and I want to be respectful of that. Did we hit the guideline or the time mark?
We're good.
All right. Well, Gregg, man, how if someone's wanting to connect with you, I mean, obviously there's the 10X Dental. Is that a closed group or open? Can anyone join it?
It is a closed group just because, like I say, I don't want, how can we help dentists that really just want to be in there for the wrong reasons and to soak up stuff? I want people in there that truly are passionate about dentistry and also are looking for some great mentors, because the names in my group, man. I've got some really old, powerful thought leaders in the group that are in some very, very ultra successful dentists that are practicing at a very high level.
Yep.
But if they want to get in, absolutely send me a request. More than likely, just you taking the time to fill out a couple of questions tells me that, it's something you want to be involved in. So definitely get on 10X Dental. I'm going to have both you guys on my stuff too. And it's how we grow this thing and get the message out and get the right message out,
Cool.
Agreed. And I think the more, honestly, and this will go into a deeper thing that you'll both want to jump onto, but the more we can help each other in terms of, I don't want to go into an anti-corporate kick right now, but the more collaborative mastermind that we can become amongst, the industry that we've all been kind of raised in, I think that sets us all up for success longer term, or if not in perpetuity, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like against the corporate rise, which I know we all kind of talk about, which, I don't think it's that threatening, but you do hear it's pretty pervasive in the industry. Right. So I think the more that we can collaborate on the ground game, just the tactical stuff, the experience stuff, the more, I think these forums are vital to the success of us not turning into medical medicine, if you will.
The downside I see, and I will go anti-corporate for a second, because, I have an opinion just because I was in the midst of a small corporation. 15 practices, or whatever. But, the biggest thing I see is a lot of these young dentists just getting out of school, going into corporate, and then they're locked in, to this corporate situation, and their skills aren't being
curated.
There's really no mentorship there. They're relying only on Facebook, or whatever group they're a part of, and that group might be giving crap info, or whatever. It's like, you don't have the street cred to be telling me this or that, right?
Right.
So, my fear is that you've got dentists who have the skill set, who are really passionate, but they're stuck into a long-term contract in this corporate atmosphere, and they're just spinning their wheels, and they're an employee. And they're going to continue to go on and go on. And what happens whenever they're fed up with it and they're ready to take over a practice, they're really not ready. You with me? Because they've spent all those years in a situation that really hasn't taught them anything.
Yeah. I think to your both of your points, one of the things, the reason why medicine went the way it did and got totally, jacked was they never banded together. And let's face it, we don't have our ADA is not going to do it for us. We have to, things like this will protect us. The ADA, I don't want to get all political, but they're not standing up for our rights. They're not pushing back in the insurance companies about uncorporate. They're kind of like they're quasi, beneficial representation of who we are. But really the power is the coming together in groups like this. And people are like, hey, corporate's taking over, insurance, blah, blah, blah. And we band together and resist that.
Absolutely.
So
well, that was awesome, buddy. I appreciate you. You're one of the good guys, and I'm glad you're on the up and you're winning. Because, like I said, I like when the good guys win.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm glad you think I'm a good guy.
I say that to all the guests.
Thanks.
Or as
give me those wonderful platitudes. Huh?
Yes, right. As we had Desmond on the. Do you know Desmond?
I know Elijah very well, man. I actually spoke for him at Smiles at Sea and for Dentistry's Got Talent.
I guess I probably shouldn't just call people by their last name, but like for some reason I do that as a default. But we had Elijah on and hung out with him at last weekend, and he was busting our chops about how we had him on the podcast. And literally, he said, "Well, I was really just more of the guest listener because you and Craig just sit there and chatted with each other the whole time." So the joke of the weekend was like, who's your next guest listener? But you in fact were not a guest listener today. And I really thoroughly enjoyed our rapport, buddy. So
no, always, man. It's like I said,
Elijah's such an awesome dude. Like he took it in stride, but I kind of felt a little guilty about.
No, Elijah's my good friend, and he didn't really have anything valuable to say that day, so we had to kick it up.
I understand. No,
he came in my office, by the way, for Invisalign the other week, and I was teasing about his lecture. You know how we were teasing him? Because he likes to get engagement. Elijah's not going to listen to this, but I don't care if it gets back to him because it went right to his face. I was like, during his lecture, how you want to get engagement. You're like, hey, does anybody here have that problem with a hygienist? But he goes for low-hanging fruit. So like, anybody been hungry here before and then eaten? How good does that feel? Like, raise your hand if you like that. Anybody had to go take a pee really bad and then you pee? How awesome is that? Yeah.
Everyone raise your hand. If you like oxygen, oxygen, raise your hand.
You ever feel really dirty and then
wrong. I love it, man. I love it. That is
he was dying when I told him that. I said, Pete and I were making funny the other day about how, anybody been really hungry and then get like a piece of pizza? How awesome is that?
Who here likes that? Raise your hand.
Yeah. Maybe like chocolate.
Dude,
buddy, that was awesome.
Loving this, like I said, and I love it, and he's a good guy too. But
I just a good dude.
Man, anything that I can do to help you guys, though, man. If y'all need, speakers, whatever.
Hey, Greg, find me a doctor that's awesome.
Dude, I'm looking for the same.
4 of them.
But I'm not gonna rip them out of. I need another associate myself right now, dude. I'm on the hunt as well.
If they don't like étouffée and Creole, then and they don't speak Creole, then send them out here.
Oh, and by the way, they've got their like very exclusive Florida dental license, which
the coveted.
You can hardly get them.
Yeah, you got to buy one from the mafia now.
For sure. Yeah. They're not giving those suckers out.
The dental mafia.
Anyway, bud, good to see you, Greg. And
great to see you.
Hope to hang out in person soon, pal.
Yeah, we need to. Absolutely, we need to get together.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Greg. Really a pleasure meeting you, man. I love your story, and I think that was divine guidance for me, because seeing you persevere and not only break through the challenges but grow because of them, that's my future story as well. So thanks for the inspiration. Really appreciate that, man.
No, man, I appreciate you saying it.
Thank you.
That's awesome. All right, guys. See ya.